I love when the New York Times finally catches up to our reporting here at Redacted. A few weeks ago here on the show, we reported that there was a team of anti-war Trump cabinet members who were actively working to prevent a war with Iran, trying to stay away from doing Israel's bidding in Iran. But they were up against neocons. And Israel, which of course desperately wants American help in destroying Iran. They've wanted it for more than 30 years. We played you the clip yesterday of Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, back in 2002 in front of Congress, calling for us to help destroy Iraq, calling for us to help destroy Libya. Check. Yes, we did that. And then Netanyahu, of course, said the third one on that list is to destroy Iran. So far, we've not done that. We learned that this group of anti-war folks is made up of my old co-host at Fox, Pete Hegseth, who's now the Secretary of Defense, Vice President J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard, and Susie Wiles. So interestingly, though, the New York Times says it was the Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, J.D. Vance, and Susie Wiles. They didn't mention Marco Rubio in their reporting last night, but our reporting does include Rubio in this mix, which is interesting. Of course, and then I said, and I'll say it again, the main man sort of leading the charge for war against Iran has been neocon Mike Waltz, the same guy involved in the weird Signal chat leak, which we covered here a few weeks ago. But it looks like the anti-war group shut him down. J.D. Vance shut him down. Marco Rubio shut him down. Pete Hegseth shut him down. And according to the New York Times, though, he's agreed, in fact, they quote this in the New York Times piece, that an attack on Iran would drag America into a deep abyss. Man, Netanyahu must be pissed. Joining us now, Colonel Douglas McGregor joins us today.
He's not in yet.
Oh, he's not here yet. Okay.
Yeah, he's not.
All right,
here
well, okay. Well, we'll bring him in a second.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
All right, good. So the New York Times reports that as according to Max Blumenthal, who points this out, the New York Times reports that Pete Hegseth was among the Trump officials opposing the U.S. launching a massive war on Iran on behalf of Israel. 3 Pentagon officials have already been fired for unknown leaks. Unknown leaks in this story. Israel lobbyists are now calling for more firings over the leaks that led to this story.
Colonel's in now, Clayton, by the way.
All right. So the Israeli lobbyists are telling our government that they need to fire more people over these leaks because they think that this is really bad news. This is really bad news for Israel because they desperately want the United States to help them bomb the shit out of Iran. Colonel Douglas McGregor is here now. We got him fired up and keyed in. Colonel, good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Well, please don't bomb the shit out of me. I want your stuff.
Never.
Pretty scary.
Good to see you, my friend. What do you make of this reporting? And I don't know if you caught the beginning of the show, because we have been reporting here for the past couple of weeks on this show that there has been this group of anti-war cabinet members really trying to insulate Trump from these neocons. Our fear, of course, I think your fear as well, is that these neocons that like Mike Waltz and others who have been kind of bending Trump's ear are pushing him to do Israel's bidding against Iran. But it seems like the anti-war folks have won out. What do you make of this?
Well, let's put it this way. I think the drums are still beating, the drums for war, but not as loudly as they were before. Keep in mind that Donald Trump, at least based on my experience, short experience that I had with him, is someone who is absolutely not interested in going to war with anyone for any reason. It's just not what he wants to do. I also think he's smart enough to know that wars have a bad habit of destroying presidencies. Now, can we escape this trap that he finds himself in? And he is trapped. And the trap was set for him long before he was elected. You saw that at the convention when they displayed the Israeli flag and above it said Israel first. And then you look at the people who were appointed to the key positions, all of whom effectively swore allegiance to Israel first and said, whatever Israel needs and wants, we're going to provide it. That's our number one priority. I think this is really Donald Trump, more than anything else, who's just not comfortable with the whole idea of going to war. It's not what he wants to do. Now, I just don't know if he can withstand the tremendous pressure that's being brought against him to do something. I mean, this is also true from the Hill. People on the Hill have been part of this war party with Iran for more than 2 decades. It's not just the inner circle. And then, of course, the people that paid for the White House. And they are very much interested in greater Israel as the project and the destruction of everyone and anyone in the region whom they see as either a real or potential opponent of Israel. So I don't think we're out of the woods yet, but we can certainly take a breather at this point and be grateful for Donald Trump's instincts to this stage.
Yeah, and a bunch of these Trump cabinet members, of course, have pretty significant, Israeli lobby ties. That's been well reported. Right. J.D. Vance has received quite a bit of money, has that support. So has Tulsi Gabbard from AIPAC and others. So the Israel lobby is very, very strong. They've, as you pointed out, they've paid a lot of money to get the results that they want from our politicians. How long do you think Trump can kind of keep them at bay and hold them off from launching some sort of a massive attack? And by the way, you bring up a great point. Wars have a funny way of destroying presidencies. Can you think of a time when a war has helped a president in the past 100 years, other than maybe Franklin Roosevelt, I guess?
No, I don't think FDR was helped by it. He died at an opportune point in time. Had he lived longer, I think the truth about Pearl Harbor would have come out. I think Americans would have discovered that we lost the war effectively because 50% of the world was now under Soviet rule or communism's rule. So I don't think so. I mean, Lincoln, the war obviously killed him one way or another. I think the only president who seems to have profited from it is Teddy Roosevelt. And of course, he fought in it, the Spanish-American War, but he certainly profited from his service. Americans liked him, liked what he did, and thought highly of him. But you're right. Everybody else, Woodrow Wilson was destroyed by it. FDR's whole domestic program was destroyed, and then he died, as I said, fortuitously. Eisenhower was smart enough to recognize that Korea was a dead end, and he ended it as quickly as he could on the best terms he could get. Everybody else, Vietnam and so forth, went under. Now, I guess you could make the argument that Desert Storm did not harm George W. Bush, but it doesn't seem to have helped him very much either. So who knows? But I think Trump knows this. The thing that I'm worried about more than anything else is that we seem to be in a race to the bottom, in the sense that on the one hand, we have this very fragile economy, this financial system that is swimming in debt. We have done some very stupid things with the tariff wars that have tended to accelerate the downward spiral. Then we have the war problem. And we seem to make more enemies with each passing day, either on the economic or strategic military level, or both. So I just don't know if we get to the fiscal crisis that I think we're going to hit first, then we will probably dodge the war bullet. But if we don't, I don't think the fight for war inside the United States at the highest levels is over yet.
Yeah, that's why President Trump seems very keen on removing Jerome Powell from the Fed, of course, going to war with him overnight on that front. He knows that an economic crisis is coming very, very soon in the United States.
He inherited the mess. I mean, he didn't create it, for God's sakes, Right. And there's another thing with Donald Trump. I mean, he should be very upfront, and should have been upfront day one about Ukraine. I didn't want this war. I didn't start this war, and I'm pulling out of it. Done. Ending all further aid, withdrawing all of our people, military, intelligence, otherwise everybody out. If he'd done that, he would be a hero right now inside the United States and for much of the world. He blew that opportunity. Now the Russians will solve this on their own, frankly. It doesn't make much difference what he does. He's got to be very careful, though, with Iran, because the Russians and the Chinese and many, many others are keenly interested in avoiding war in the Middle East. And that's why the Iranian foreign minister went to see Putin in Moscow and ended up talking directly to Xi. I mean, these people want peace. That's what we don't seem to get. We're the ones, along with our Israeli friends, that seem to be interested in war. We're all alone in that. Nobody else wants it.
this Saturday, the talks are set to resume between the United States directly with Iran. And apparently the first round of discussions were, quote, excellent from the American side. Excellent discussions. I'm sure that really pissed off Israel. But where do you, if you could give us like your sort of 1 minute assessment here, where you think these talks are going and what you think will come of it?
Well, if you go back to the initial letter that was signed by President Trump and sent to Iran, that was, as I said at the time, effectively the same sort of ultimatum that Franz Josef of Austria sent to Serbia. And it had no chance whatsoever being accepted. I mean, that document was a sure guarantee of war between Iran and the United States. And I think Mr. Witkoff was sent over and said, look, let's focus on what we think is most important, and that's the nuclear weapon. We don't want that. Find out how we can avoid that. If we can avoid that, then we can avoid war. Well, that's dramatically easier than the ultimatum. That is probably attainable. And let's hope that that's what will happen. But remember, he was pushed to walk away from the joint comprehensive agreement that was reached under Obama. Now he's talking about going back to something similar to that. I don't know how he pitches it the second time around, except to say that this is going to last much longer than 20 years, that this is indefinite or something until somebody walks away from it. But a lot can happen between now and any sort of agreement. There's a lot of water left under the bridge, a lot of people in Washington that are going to fight very hard against it. So I hope President Trump is successful with this, but I'm going to watch carefully, and I'm not entirely optimistic.
Well, follow Colonel Douglas McGregor on X and visit his great website, Our Country, Our Choice, who always keeps a clear head on all of these issues and provides great context on this. We'll be watching closely here. And Saturday, of course, is the next round of discussions. And Colonel, we'd love to have you back maybe next week after those discussions.
I'm amazed that we're not all drinking heavily by this point. You know,
me too. And you and I don't drink, but I do have a seltzer.
But I'm going to get close if something good doesn't happen soon.
I know. I think we're on the precipice of something here, either economically or on the war footing. And we desperately don't want that to happen. But hey, maybe we saw some good news. President Trump says it looks like they're going to pull out of Syria. So, maybe with some good news there on that side.
He wanted to do that in 2020. He said, I want out of Iraq. And he knows that if we go to war with Iran, all those army troops, personnel, Americans, whether they're National Guard, regular Army, whatever they are, they're all at risk. They're easily targeted and destroyed. He knows that. So getting them out one way or another is a damn good idea at this point.
Yeah, hallelujah. Colonel, great to see you as always.
Right.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Colonel.